Tragedy in Colorado. Police are still trying to put together the story behind the shooting at a movie theater this morning.
Burning up, the heat continues to take its toll on firefighters.
And remembering Sterling Wyatt, how red will stand for respect at his funeral. KOMU 8 News at 6 starts now.
From Studio 8A, coverage you can count on in high definition. This is KOMU 8 News at 6.
12 people are confirmed dead after a gunman opened fire at a movie theater in Aurora, Colorado. Good evening, I'm Stacey Kafka.
And I'm Angie Bailey. Thanks for joining us. 59 were injured, with more details still coming in. 2 federal officers identified 24-year-old James Holmes as the shooter. Holmes opened fire in a sold-out showing of The Dark Knight Rises shortly after midnight. Officers say Holmes surrendered without resistance within minutes of the first calls from panicked moviegoers reporting a shooting. Officers say he used an AR-15 rifle, a 12-gauge shotgun, and at least one of 2 .40-caliber handguns. Police have recovered those at the scene. Holmes told officers his home's booby-trapped. They're currently investigating his apartment. He is scheduled to appear in court on Monday.
Officials in Columbia responding locally to the tragedy in Colorado. KOMU 8's Matt Evans has been following this story today and joins us live outside a local movie theater. What have you found out today, Matt?
According to the Columbia Police Department, they won't up their security in any of the places across the movie theaters. However, department officials did confirm with me today that both movie theaters, both Forum 8 and Hollywood, hire off-duty police officers for security. Public Information Officer Letitia Stroyer told me today the police department has been upping the trainings of mass public shootings ever since the Columbine shooting. She says those trainings are real-life simulations with volunteers acting as hostages in real-life public settings. Officer Stroyer says the most important thing officers can do is to be prepared.
You prepare as much as you can for something like that to happen, and then you also have to mentally prepare for that to happen, you know. And when something like this happens, again, it reassures that whenever you go to call, you have to be prepared that that's what's going to happen when you go to that call.
I talked to both movie theaters in Columbia. Hollywood Theater refused to comment on the situation, but the manager at Forum 8 said that there is always one off-duty police officer on Friday nights, and she's thinking about having an extra one on Saturdays. She also says they'll be keeping an extra close eye on people in lines and are discouraging people from wearing masks or costumes. Now, while Forum 8 is discouraging those masks and costumes, one national movie chain has outright banned them. ACM announced just a few hours ago that they won't let people in wearing those masks or costumes to their theaters. Reporting live in Columbia, Matt Evans, KOMU 8 News.
Okay, thanks, Matt. NBC continues its coverage of the tragedy in Colorado with a special 2-hour edition of Dateline that starts at 8 o'clock tonight. Theaters in St. Louis are taking extra precautions after the shooting this morning. St. Louis County Police will dispatch more officers to county movie theaters. Police spokesman Rick Eckhart says officers will be patrolling near theaters to watch for any suspicious activity. KMOX reports Eckhart says no local threats have been reported.
Good evening. And on a lighter note, we actually saw our streak of at or above 90-degree temperatures actually end today as we topped off into the upper 80s, about 5 to 10 degrees cooler than what we had expected. And you can see here on live Doppler First Alert satellite and radar that we did have a mainly clear afternoon with a few light passing clouds. That's going to continue into our overnight hours, as we'll have a slightly cooler and a mild evening, temperatures into the upper 60s. But we are currently under a heat advisory and warning. Now that starts tomorrow and goes through Wednesday, and I'll have further details of the expected heat throughout the work week coming up in just a little bit.
Great, thanks a lot, Christy. Well, Jefferson City Police have now formally charged the man involved in a SWAT standoff Wednesday morning there. KOMU 8's Eric Hilt joins us from Jefferson City with the very latest.
I'm here at the 200th block of Indian Meadows Drive, where Jefferson City Police were involved in a standoff Wednesday night. Now, Jefferson City Police and SWAT teams weren't able to find the suspect then, but yesterday afternoon, they did find 42-year-old Brett Courtney, who they originally thought was just a danger to himself. Now, while investigating Courtney's mental health, they found evidence that linked him to a July 9th sexual assault case. That evidence, including DNA, prompted officials to charge him with 6 felonies. Now, those felonies include forcible sodomy, attempted forcible rape, a second count of forcible sodomy, kidnapping, first-degree burglary, and armed criminal action. Again, all 6 of those charges are felonies. Now, currently, Courtney is being held without bond, and a court date has not yet been set. Reporting live from Jefferson City, Eric Hilt, KOMU 8 News.
All right, thanks, Eric. State officials are still looking into what caused a massive apartment fire in Sedalia on Wednesday. Missouri Fire Marshal Randy Cole says his office will continue to investigate the fire that burned most of the Mark Twain apartments. They do know that a roofing crew was re-roofing the apartment building hours before the fire started, but cannot confirm if that was the source of the fire. 15 of the 22 apartments were occupied at the time of the fire, but all tenants were evacuated out of the building safely. The Salvation Army is providing several programs for those residents displaced by the fire.
Of course, the big thing right now is since most of them had to leave like right away, and what they had was clothes, was the clothes they were wearing. So right now we're making sure people have adequate clothing.
The Salvation Army will also donate towels, blankets, and other household items. If you want to help, Hazlet says, if you want to help, donate to the area Salvation Army thrift store.
Boy, we have been covering the fires lately. That one in Sedalia, just the latest in all of those in mid-Missouri lately. It's not the flames that the firefighters are battling only. KOMU 8 Sebastian Martinez tells us how this heat is making their job a lot more difficult.
The last place most people want to be when it's 105 out is surrounded by flames. But that's just another day at work for area fire crews.
Probably back in the 80s was the closest thing to what we're seeing, and the fire conditions that we are seeing are very erratic and very uncommon for this part of the United States.
In the last week alone, KOMU 8 has reported on Boone County fires at a house on Route M, one on West Worley, a trash fire north of Columbia, one on the side of Highway 63, and 2 different fires at Finger Lakes.
We do need to rotate them in and out more because of the heat. They can't perform the same activity for the same length of time.
Dehydration and heat exhaustion are real threats in these conditions, but staying hydrated requires a routine.
To start rehydrating the day of or to rehydrate during the event is not usually enough hydration for people.
That's why they're using rehabilitation vehicles to cool firefighters down.
Cold water, misting fans, Gatorades to replace electrolytes.
With temperatures projected to remain in the hundreds, it looks like they'll be using them a lot. Sebastian Martinez, KOMU 8 News, Boone County.
You know, some of the fire crews I talked to said they're on 10 minutes, then they take a break and cool off. That's how they're fighting fire these days. Despite the number of fires, open burning still allowed because no actual burn ban has been issued for Boone County. There are 2 arrest warrants out this week for a man some Lake residents say is a notorious scam artist. KOMU 8 Stacey Welsh is here with an update on an ongoing case against him.
Angie, according to Missouri CaseNet, there is a $100,000 cash bond warrant issued for Dan Francis for forgery and a $75,000 cash bond warrant for property or services theft. We reported an investigation last month into complaints against Francis owing residents thousands of dollars after buying and selling property in connection with his businesses. Jim Self says he bought a dock from Francis back in 2008 and never got it. He filed charges with the Camden County prosecutor. CaseNet cites that case will go to criminal trial in late August. Self also told us he got a notice from the Camden County prosecutor's office stating Francis filed bankruptcy last month shortly after our story aired. A cover letter to the notice says, even though Mr. Francis has moved to file bankruptcy, it does not change the direction in which the prosecutor's office intends to move on these cases. However, you will probably not obtain restitution should Mr. Francis be convicted. In reaction to the filing, Self says, quote, I'm not surprised to discover Mr. Francis has filed for Chapter 7 personal bankruptcy, given the number of documented Missouri civil court cases against him. In connection with the latest warrants, the prosecutor's office confirmed Francis is not in custody of the Camden County Sheriff's Department this afternoon.
All right, thanks, Stacey. The First Baptist Church on East Broadway will be covered in red tomorrow.
Hundreds of people are expected to show up wearing red in honor of U.S. Army Specialist Sterling Wyatt's funeral. KOMU 8's Christine Wendell joins us live right now from outside that church.
Sterling Wyatt's body arrived here at the church a little bit after 3 o'clock today. The casket was wrapped in an American flag, and there were several of the honor guard people here. It was a very emotional thing to see. Now, tomorrow there's expected to be hundreds, possibly even thousands, according to Facebook, of people coming to support Wyatt and his family dressed in red. Now, organizers say this will be a silent event. They're going to have people form a large circle around the church, linking arms, facing the church, just to honor his family. I talked with Tori Smith, who created the Facebook page, asking people to come today. She said she created it after hearing of a possible picketing tomorrow for his funeral. Now, she says that she believes that the family deserves a peaceful funeral.
basic line of it is just that it's the right thing to do. He was a great guy. I mean, I only had a couple of conversations. I had a couple of memories of him. And every time that I spoke to him, he was always talking about somebody else.
There's a visitation going on inside the church right now until 8 o'clock tonight. Again, the funeral will be tomorrow at 1 p.m. here at the First Baptist Church. Reporting live from Columbia, Christine Wendell, KOMU 8 News.
All right, thanks, Christine. The vegetables one greenhouse grows promotes healthy living.
In a different way than all other vegetables. Coming up, find out how it helps more than 100 employees earn a living year-round.
In sports, find out which former Big 12 current SEC coach thinks Gary Pinkel does one of the best coaching jobs in the country.
And after the mild day today and what we're expecting tonight, we'll see the heat come back in full force for our weekend and work week up ahead with nothing in the way of relief and precipitation. A full look at my full forecast is coming up after the break.